Councillor Perks.
Thank you. I want to begin by following on from the questions that Councillor Layton was asking. So, to the Chief Planner, this is the map, or City staff. Oh, it went away. Is this the map that was used in deciding what the TIF zones are for the proposal in front of us right now?
Yes.
Yes. To the Chief Zoner. So, Chief Planner. Oh, Zoner, look at that. So when we're talking about relaxed planning, many of these areas that we see here in the proposal that we have would have what you were just calling relaxed planning, or relaxing the current planning guidelines.
Through the Speaker, that's correct in the context of the financial analysis, but it's important to note whereas there was a higher attribution of growth in some areas like Liberty Village, in fact there was a lower attribution of growth in other areas such as Mount Dennis. So it's not even from area to area. There was a relatively nuanced analysis undertaken looking at the market demand in specific areas that led to this recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I've had an experience actually in one of these TIF zones at Bloor and Dundas of going to the Ontario Municipal Board, and the applicant's argument at that time was that Bloor and Dundas had a transit hub, and because of that the City of Toronto should accept more density than what was in the official plan. We lost. Does even the fact of us publishing that we're expecting more density than what's in the official plan in order to come up with the funding, does that create a similar risk for us at the board in the future?
Through the Speaker, yes it does if it signals an intention of Council that's inconsistent with other policies. I think it is problematic.
Okay, to the Chief Financial Officer, we've heard in answers from questions from the Chief Planner that that the relaxed planning assumptions used to generate your financial model were not in every instance in accordance with existing official plan and secondary plans. Is that correct?
So there is a planning forecast here. That's why we have taken 50% of that growth, precisely because...
Oh, so you're using the 50% for that?
Yes.
Okay, let me just make a note of that.
Tax revenues generated from here that we have based the TIF financing on is 50% of that forecast.
Okay, thank you. To the City Manager, in the event that the City Planner, who's told us that she would not support expanded growth, says one thing, and the financial model, as we heard in Liberty Village, looks at more density, in your view as City Manager, who wins?
So, to be very clear, we are, and I tried to draw attention to this in my presentation. What we are basing the analysis, the financial analysis, and the input analysis on is a long set of model and assumptions associated with that. Built into one of those is an assumption that the Chief Planner has pointed out is not fully consistent with her advice in terms of density. That is partially offset by the overall assumption of 50%. But as I indicate, those model aspects we are dealing with two different constructs.
Okay, I think I understand.
And the model.
Thank you. To the CFO, at the Executive Committee and in answers to questions from Councillor Fillion, you told us that what the 50% assumption achieved was to make sure that we had revenue to pay for services for people moving into those areas. You've just told us that actually what that does is make sure that we don't overbuild in these areas. Which of those two things is that 50% actually for?
What I believe I have said on multiple times is we are taking 50% of the revenues because of, one, we don't know exactly with 100% certainty all the growth, so the answer to that question, and also because we need to have some revenues left over to pay for growth. It's for both.
So it would actually be, given that you're trying to accomplish both, the amount of money to pay for services for people who move into these neighborhoods would be less than 50% than what we take from people who move into areas currently.
To the extent that the growth doesn't occur as and when it is projected.
Thank you very much. Just quickly, there's a thing in here about Metrolinx having a set of assumptions about how much service will be run on these lines. As we've seen recently, Metrolinx can make mistakes with their fare and service policy on the UPX. Who's responsible if those numbers are wrong? Do we pay if suddenly we have to subsidize people $15 a ride instead of $3?
That is deferred until fare integration.
Thank you.